Willie Gay going to help us win IDP championships? That and this week on the IDP Blitz moves to make for the stretch run. I get the privilege of powwowing with three of the brightest minds in IDP fantasy football, John Roden, Gary Davenport, Matt Schauf. Matt, Willie Gay, we had high hopes coming into the season. We had some interruption. We had maybe not snap counts we were looking for. What are we going to look forward to?
Well, I mean, first of all, you catch me off guard because I always hear the intro music and I'm like, are we about the podcast or am I in the lobby of a fancy hotel here?
You're gonna get a massage or your haircut or something.
And then you tell me that Gary and John are here. I'm looking around wondering who's in my house while we pod. Now, Willie Gay Jr., I think, can help us. And it's about him, but it's also about where linebacker is right now. So first, Willie Gay this past week, 8 tackles, a sack, a pass breakup in the win over the Jaguars. You might look at the numbers and think, oh, they're playing Willie Gay Jr. more. Not the case. 67% playing time in that one, just his third highest snap share, third highest snap total among the 5 games he's played so far. It's also his third game, though, of 8+ tackles. He's had quarterback hits in 3 of his 5 games. He's had 3 pass breakups in 5 games. He's rushing the passer quite a bit for an off-ball linebacker, 20% of his pass play snaps so far. Season high 11 pass rushes against the Jags. So Willie Gay Jr. can produce enough for us on that snap share. And part of the reason that he can is, we talk about, I mean, we've always talked about linebackers being like the running backs of defense in fantasy. And a while ago we want the guys loading up tackles because we can count on them every week. But now it's like we've got the committee backfields, we've got the committee linebacker cores, and 67% used to be like a level we couldn't trust that guy. Now it's if you're a good player, if you're in a solid situation, we can probably use you in modestly deep IDP leagues. And I think that's where Willie Gay Jr. is.
And Willie Gay Jr. is a big play player. He's in a role that in Steve Spagnuolo's defense is supposed to create big plays. So this is where scoring system comes in too. But also, Matt, this is something we're familiar with in offensive fantasy football, right? DeAndre Swift. Opportunity isn't everything. Opportunity gives us a context, but there are ways that opportunity can be worth more. Kansas City playing from ahead. Willie Gay, like you said, being able to rush the passer more often. And it's funny that you said that you think of linebacker as running back, because I always thought of linebacker more like wide receiver, simply because you usually start 3 or 4 of them. And on the waiver wire, you can find something to rub 2 sticks together if you have to. Where I always thought of running back more like defensive end, where there's not enough studs to go around. That's what makes them more important. And if you have to go to the waiver wire, you might be getting a 0, or even almost like tight end. You might be getting a 0. But I'll tell you who didn't have a 0 last week. Cody Barton. Cody Barton took Tom Brady's little counter passes since interception and reset it back to 0. First and 400 passes. Cody Barton, this is going to be a theme, right? Up and down at linebacker. We're up. Are we going to stay up?
Every time that there's a 45-year-old quarterback starting, Cody Barton should be counted on. 9 tackles, 1 interception in this game against the Bucs. That was his first start, though, since week 6. It was his most playing time since week 3. The 80% snap share in that game followed games of 43% and 51%. So I'm not really sure why Cody Barton got so much more playing time in this one. Maybe it was something about how the Bucs run their offense. Maybe it was about how the offense was going in that game, because the Bucs went a lot more run heavy in that game than they have in other games. I don't know if Seattle expected that going in or if that was something that developed. But again, Barton started that game. Maybe it was the combo of that plus the short way that the Bucs have been operating, because Tom Brady is also working on the shortest average target depth of his career. The only other year as a starter that he's been at the same level was 2008, when he, of course, had his season ended in the first quarter by Bernard Pollard. So I think you can look at this and say, maybe we can use Cody Barton going forward. But I would also point out that this did not work. This was a bad defensive game for Seattle. They allowed their most yardage since week 5. This defense had been playing awesome. Then they put Cody Barton back on the field for more snaps, and they stunk. So to me, I hope they come out of the bye with Cody Barton not on the field so much and the defense looking better.
Yeah, there's a tension there between if putting Seattle's defense in that mode meant success for Tampa, that's an incentive for other offenses to put them in that mode. And that was a mode they were using Cody Barton in a lot more, but Cody Barton wasn't exactly holding up his part of the bargain. Up and down at linebacker, up and down. Frankie Luvu. These are the little things. It's the little things, Matt. Schauf. we're loving him again. Is this love going to last?
Oh yeah, let's put the smooch emoji right on Frankie Luvu because he not only delivered a season high 12 tackles last week, 2 sacks in that game against the Falcons. He was up to 100% playing time for the first time since week 3. That followed 3 games of 66%, 75, 73. So it wasn't really a ramp up phase, but he was working back from the shoulder injury. Seems like that's behind him now. So I think we should be able to count on Frankie Luvu for full-time going forward again. Shaq Thompson still was a full-timer in that game against the Falcons as well. So maybe that was a matchup thing. Maybe playing against Atlanta and their run heaviness allowed Carolina or motivated Carolina to keep 2 linebackers on the field more often. Up next is Baltimore. So we'll see what the matchups look like the rest of the way. We'll see what the plan is by matchup, but this should be another one that favors keeping those linebackers on the field. And then even beyond that, we've got Denver and we've got Seattle, which haven't exactly been 2 offenses that challenge you to take that extra linebacker off the field. So I think Shaq Thompson's all right for at least the next 3 weeks. You know, we'll take it week by week and see where we are. But I would plan on Shaq Thompson being okay. I would plan on Frankie Luvu delivering you more smooch emojis.
Yeah, it's good, and it's great to see this story of his breakout. We would settle for 1 linebacker in Cleveland, Matt, that we could count on. As you put it in your notes, it's great. See, Matt does all the work. I just show up. Something to talkie about as we see this revolving door of Cleveland linebackers. Is it going to stop? Is there somebody we can finally use here?
I know my middle kid hopes that he stays on the field because she loves Takis, but Sione Takitaki has been the linebacker playing the most in the recent games. He had been playing the run well before the Miami game too. He did not play it well in that one though. Worst graded game of the season so far overall, according to Pro Football Focus. One of his lowest run defense grades. His second worst grade in the tackle category. His worst grade in coverage. Fortunately for Takitaki though, Deion Jones graded even worse in run D, worse in coverage. He's been playing less than Takitaki, 77% and 74% in his 2 starts. So Deion Jones's play doesn't seem to be screaming, give me more playing time. We'll see exactly where this goes. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is still out for this game. Last time he was on the field, he led Browns linebackers in playing time. Before that, though, it was a little bit shakier on whether he was going to stay on the field. So I'm not saying that anything is set or likely or anything right here. Right now, I would treat Sione Takitaki as the best bet to stay on the field for enough snaps to help us IDP-wise, but not a situation to count on any individual.
Yeah, speaking of matchups this week, the Lake Effect Snow Bowl in Buffalo, Cleveland and Buffalo. Not a lot of lake effect snow in Las Vegas. And, well, we know Las Vegas's defense is one we like to pick on offensive fantasy football side of things, but we're waiting. We're thinking, how bad is it with the Raiders linebackers? You know, Blake Martinez retired. Did you just retire from fantasy football, IDP fantasy football, instead of looking for a Raiders linebacker we can trust?
Yes. No. So yeah, we had Blake Martinez retire to spend more time with his Pokemon cards. We had the Heavenly Devil go on IR the exact same week. And then we had Denzel Perryman not play. I mean, he was questionable heading into the game. He sure looked like it leading up that there was a pretty good chance he would not play, turned up inactive. So Jayon Brown was the full-time linebacker after having been a healthy scratch the previous 2 weeks. I still think he's probably a good bet to be that number 2. I would bet on a healthy Denzel Perryman playing the most snaps among these guys because Raiders coaches have liked him when he's been healthy. It wasn't so much at the early part of this year when Divine Diablo emerged, but now that he's out of the way, now that Blake Martinez is not a factor, I would bet on Denzel Perryman being the most likely to stay on the field if his body allows him to. I would bet on Jayon Brown joining him, though. I think he's just the kind of player that he's not going to play special teams. So if he's not starting at linebacker, they make him a healthy scratch. They get younger guys in as special teams players and reserve linebackers. So Jayon Brown is worth stashing right now. Denzel Perryman certainly worth holding. We'll see about his health this week. He had multiple issues heading into last game, so it'll be a challenge. The one other reason to pay attention to this situation is the Raiders have the best matchups the rest of the way, according to our strength of schedule page on draftsharks.com. We have that available for IDPs now, just added this week. So the Raiders have the best linebacker scoring schedule the rest of the week. So whoever's on the field at linebacker for the Raiders should be in a pretty good spot, and we'll see exactly who it's going to be this week.
Yeah, on their way to Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels already getting the assurance that he's going to coach in 2023. That's not good.
No.
Every year, Matt, there is a player, at least one player, who at the beginning of the season, or maybe even a month or 2 months into the season, was on 0 people's radar, and they help you win a championship. It happens in both sides of the ball. Is that player in 2022 Jack Sanborn?
He certainly seems like he wants to be. He's either that or he's just like a character from a straight to Prime Video series that
Right.
jumped off the screen to play football for us. Terrific in week 10, 12 tackles, 2 sacks, solid in week 9, which was his first NFL start, 7 solos in that game. So 2 usable games for us for sure. And he's playing full time next to Nicholas Morrow. So he's not only on the field for full time, but he's playing next to a linebacker who's not exactly, proven to be stealing opportunities from him. So there should be plenty there. Also, there should be plenty available to the Bears defense in general. If you look at our pass rate over expected numbers on Draft Sharks by Timmy Hernandez, supplies those to us every week. And people, if they recognize that name, Timmy Hernandez used to be a wide receiver for Oregon State. So
Wow.
An interesting connection there. But that aside for the moment, free weekly article just posted today. Bears opponents pass at the 4th highest rate under expected. So Bears opponents are running the ball a lot more than other teams' opponents around the league. It's been a little bit different in recent weeks with the Justin Fields breakout, but still under expected even within that window. So that should have tackles available. And Jack Sanborn's not like a nobody who's never done anything. He didn't have a big career at Wisconsin. He was an undrafted rookie this year, but did make 29 tackles for loss, 11 and a half sacks across his 3 starting seasons for the Badgers. So he was a linebacker that was making plays in the backfield.
Yeah, and like you said, situation sometimes is king. We've seen many players come on to be massive factors in the IDP fantasy football playoffs. Also, you have teams playing out the string, right? So you have players that maybe don't fit in a central part of their future plans. But, again, these teams like Raiders, Bears, their season swirling down the drain, that usually means a lot of opportunity. The Packers kept their season from swirling down the drain. They threw a life preserver out. Christian Watson threw it or caught it, or maybe threw it and caught it. And also, there's been a lot of stuff. The Packers defense, and this affects fantasy football on both sides. The Packers defense is supposed to be good, supposed to be a unit that helped define their game scripts. And some things were breaking down. I remember even week 1 against Minnesota, Matt, this idea, well, they had a lot of motion, so we had to stay in zone. Really? It's that elementary? All a team has to do is show motion. You're like, well, I guess we have to stay in zone. There was some talk about firing the defensive coordinator. I know Darnell Savage has been a player that people are saying, why is he continuing to be in a role that it doesn't seem like he's good at? Whatever the Packers doing to address problems with their secondary.
Yeah, imagine Jair Alexander standing there in week 1, like, wait, where's Justin Jefferson going? Should I follow him? Nah,
Right.
Stay over there, Jair.
No, there was motion. No.
We need you on KJ Osborne. So there have been some big losses. Devondre Campbell's been out a couple games with a knee injury. We had Rashawn Gary go down recently, which is obviously a big loss, both IDP wise and for the pass rush overall. But we also had a shakeup among guys still there, partially driven by Eric Stokes being likely lost for the rest of the season, one of their starting outside cornerbacks. So he is gone. Rasul Douglas has moved from the slot to outside, almost all outside over the past 2 weeks. That's good for his playing time, not necessarily good for his tackle opportunity. I think those things kind of balance out and make Rasul Douglas, kind of a push from where he was fantasy-wise the rest of the season. But the big change was Rudy Ford jumping into the lineup on last week's game against Dallas, grabbed those 2 interceptions to let people know he was playing. He was playing safety, though. He did not jump into the slot. We had Keyshawn Nixon the week before fill in after Eric Stokes went down early in that game. So the expectation was Keyshawn Nixon would be the starter there. He barely played in this game. Rudy Ford jumped in at safety, and that pushed Darnell Savage to slot cornerback. He ran primarily from that spot in this game, had a season high 8 tackles, had his second pass breakup of the year. Now, we'll see if that's a new setup for the secondary or if it was a specific plan for the Cowboys, who have CeeDee Lamb in the slot, usually at least about half the time. According to PFF, Darnell Savage only covered Lamb on 2 of his 15 targets. So I don't know how many times overall he was running with CeeDee Lamb. Again, I don't know if that was the plan. Lamb did catch both of his targets that were thrown into Savage's coverage. So we'll see if Savage stays there. That's certainly good for his IDP outlook. Going to get more tackle opportunities, more chances for plays on the ball. And we'll also see if Rudy Ford stays in the game. But I don't think that we're going to see too many more multi-interception games from Rudy Ford. So I'm not sure he's an IDP factor going forward.
No, but I think John Norton calls that ambulance chasing. These results that may not happen again, but what will continue to happen every week, we're going to bring you the IDP Blitz. Like Matt Schauf said, you can find his work at Draft Sharks, SCHAUFDS. Next week will be the return of the Godfather, Gary Davenport. Then after that, the Guru, John Norton. I know my IDP teams are much better for getting to record the show. I hope you are enjoying and benefiting from listening or watching. We love being part of your community. We love to serve you because you're classy and you play IDP fantasy football. That's the only real fantasy football.